Hello, everybody. What's going on? Welcome to the March 14th and 8th episode installment of the Go With The Flow podcast. I'm joined by my line mates, Dan and Kevin. Fellas, what's going on?
What's going on, everybody?
Things are swell. I got got a nice vacation looming. But before that, just going to get ready to watch some more puck and see what the stretch run here's got to offer before I depart the country. So let's jump right into it. And by jump right into it, I mean we're going to talk about Kevin Shattenkirk.
Nice.
Jumping into Kings defenseman Gravel. So that was just an unbelievably stupid hit. Shatty doesn't really have a history, but I think 2 games he got off pretty easy because it was pretty blatant. Leaves the ice, unorthodox hit. Shoulder, direct contact to the head. I thought it was pretty clearly dirty. He just arrives in Washington, and now he's already, not soon up for him again after a stupid play. Boys, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he just got kind of overexcited. They said it on the commentary that I just watched on YouTube, and they thought maybe, he's new club and everything. He's excited. He wants to make an impact right away. So maybe he just got a little bit overexcited with that hit because I mean he missed a lot of him too because after the jump he kind of went flying to the ice. But yeah, just a really bad move by him, which is kind of uncharacteristic, as you said, of him making stupid plays. He's a smart defenseman. So 2 games seems fine enough, though. I don't know if the guy got hurt, but it didn't look that bad. So maybe that's why they only gave him 2. But yeah, just a dumb play.
Yeah, I'm watching it right now, and it looks like, he got lucky. It wasn't any worse because it looks like he kind of jumps in front of him. But it looked like he had intent to hit him, above the shoulders. He clearly jumped off the ice, and the worst part is he was trying to plead his case to the ref, which I thought was pretty stupid because that's pretty blatantly a dirty hit.
I mean, that area of the ice in particular is known to be a kind of a suicidal area of the ice. If you're going one way around the boards, you might get crunched the other way. So Shatty, he rims the puck in from the right side of the offensive zone. No one really chases it other than Gravel. And Gravel, he's going from his right to his left behind the net, and Shatty just keeps going down the right side of the boards and sees an opportunity to kind of, forecheck on the puck. And then, Gravel's obviously not expecting Shattenkirk to go from the right side of the blue line all the way down behind the net. And, Shatty leaves his feet, makes a big hit on him. But, it was just, you don't expect that from Shattenkirk as a guy who's not really known for being a physical D-man, a guy who's more, he's more known for his offensive capabilities and, being a pretty, decently steady presence on the back end, perhaps, being the power play QB, depending on what team he's played for. So you didn't expect him to, go behind the opponent's net and, put a dirty hit on a guy, but I guess it happened.
Yeah, really uncharacteristic of him, but, hopefully he learns from it, doesn't do it again. You just jump.
And then we had quite a bout, as we've talked about before in previous podcasts. Fighting obviously is slowly being funneled out of the game, and you probably won't see it in the playoffs as much because that's when you get the most viewership, and the NHL is trying its best not to promote fighting. So as we've seen in previous playoffs, things been kind of down, but we got a nice tilt from Sam Bennett and Jacob Trouba. And Sam Bennett, he's a former number 4 overall pick in 2014. The offensive development maybe isn't quite there. He's got just over 20 points in almost 70 games. But he's a guy that they still think highly of internally. And him and Trouba got in quite a scrap. And surprisingly, Bennett left that one way less worse for wear than Trouba did. Trouba looked like a tomato coming out of that one when they both got sent into the dressing room. But that was quite a battle. Any thoughts on that, guys?
I enjoyed that. That was a good.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I was gonna say, I mean, that's just like a classic hockey fight, both guys bloodied all over their face, and it looked like they were actually pissed off at each other. That's something that, you don't really, at least I don't really see that much anymore. It's usually just these planned fights off of a face-off or, whatever it may be. But that looked like an actual fight, and it surely was entertaining.
Yeah, and they went pretty long too, which a lot of times you don't see anymore, because even if there are fights, the refs are pretty quick to step in and break it up, but they let them go. And yeah, Nick, like you were saying with with Trouba's face, he was definitely worse for wear than Bennett, which I guess you wouldn't expect, but they're both bloodied. So good tilt. I enjoyed it.
I mean, it's one of those things though too, where every time I see a guy fight with a visor on, I just kind of cringe every time, because I just think someone's going to shatter their hand on the punch in the visor, or the visor's going to get pushed back into the guy's face. So as we've seen, you can get injured from your own visor. But the Cronwall on Riley Smith hit, if you guys recall that hit, just one of those classic 7 feet inside the blue line kind of hits by Cronwall, and the hit got part of his head. The visor goes right into Riley Smith's face, cuts him up. So maybe something similar happened there to Bennett. But yeah, and I just know the NHL's got these rules on fighting, where if you instigate with the visor on, you get the extra couple minutes and stuff like that. But I think if these guys, maybe it's kind of a hot take or whatever, but if you really want to fight, you just got to go buckets off if you got a visor on. I mean, I just think it's just so dangerous and sometimes for yourself. I really just don't want to see guys fighting with visors. But hey, it was still a hell of a fight. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I kind of agree with the helmet thing, with the visors. But the problem is because they said you couldn't take your helmet off before the fight because they were concerned that if one or both players fall and they hit their head, now that's a head that's exposed to the hard ice. So I think that's the reason why they said to leave their helmets on. So it's kind of like, pick your poison. You take the helmet off and maybe be, susceptible to falling and hitting your head on the ice, and you're not going to be able to get your hands in the way because you're holding on to another guy? Or do you leave the helmet on and protect the head for concussions, but then, maybe somebody gashes their hand wide open, or the visor shatters or something like that, and the guy who's actually wearing it gets hurt? It's kind of hard.
Yeah, pick your poison's a pretty good way to put it, especially with all these all the concussion problems, and not only hockey but just sports in general. It's important to try to protect the players, but at the same time, fights are one of the most electric parts of hockey games. So, it's definitely interesting to see what the NHL might do in upcoming years to change what their stance on fighting is. Because currently, I feel like it's just going, it's going to be eradicated at some point at this pace.
No, I definitely agree. We've even seen guys get, even in a playoff game. I remember that Blackhawks Coyotes series from 2012, and Biz Nasty got tossed from one of the playoff games because he didn't have his jersey tied down correctly. And then earlier this year, I believe it was Christopher Stieg got thrown out of a game for getting in a fight, not having his jersey tied down. So, I mean, it seems like they take precautions in other areas, and all they've done is kind of say, well, if you got a visor on, you can put yourself and your opponent's, fist in danger if you really want to do that, but it's only going to be an extra 2 minutes. So it seems like they've acknowledged it, but haven't really come up with a better idea because of the, the pick your poison example. Like you guys said, it's, you can't like unscrew the visor before the fight. And certainly, two guys fighting without their helmets on are dangerous if the tumble results in one or either of the guys hitting their heads. So, it's kind of, it's one of those tough situations where, you want the players to be safe, but, coming up with a rule that makes most or all people happy is really difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
100% agree. Yep.
So let's move into Jakub Voracek's comments on Commissioner Gary Bettman and Bill Daley. So for those of you guys, I'm sure you guys are all aware, the National Hockey League. Here, we got to cut this. Sorry, I'm kind of sick. Sorry, we're gonna have to cut this. What time are we at?
We're at 10 and a half minutes.
No shit. Okay, that's
All
a
right.
lot more than I thought. All right, 10 and a half. So I'm just going to say, so let's move into, sorry, my voice got all raspy and shit.
Yeah, you're fine. Don't worry about it. I'm giving you shit.
Sound like shit. All right. I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's move into Jakub Voracek's comments. He basically roasted Commissioner Gary Bettman and Bill Daley. So for those at home that obviously know, the National Hockey League hasn't decided on a partnership with the IOC yet if they're going to let their players travel to Korea and participate in the 2018 Winter Olympics. There have been a lot of players that have been very outspoken about wanting to play out there. Alexander Ovechkin being the big one. Jonathan Toews has mentioned, obviously, he wants to play there. And now we have Voracek from Philly being pretty outspoken. He's a darn good player, so when he speaks, it definitely is going to garner a little more attention. But his quote is really interesting. So his thoughts on not possibly being able to play over there it's absolutely ridiculous. We have it once every 4 years. I read something that Bill Daley said we're not going. Nobody wants you to go. The players want to go. Why are you saying you're not going? You're not part of the Players Association. Nobody wants you there. They want the players. So
Love
essentially he's called – yeah, so – I mean, he's got a point there that, no one's excited about any business relationships and seeing, those two knuckleheads over there. At the end of the day, hockey fans just want to see the best product of talent on the ice. And obviously, we've seen Olympic Games flourish in the past without NHL talent. You can go back to 1980 and, none of the American players were, part of the NHL at that point. A few of them obviously went on. All the Soviet Union players hadn't been granted permission to come over. Later on, a few of them were, but so we've seen the Olympic hockey be great, but when you're watching some of the best talent in the world and you look at it and it's missing an Ovechkin and it's missing a Crosby, even though things like World Juniors and tournaments of that nature, the IIHF are fun. At least in my opinion, you guys can give me your 2 cents, but I want to see the best players out there. I like the World Junior Hockey where it's just the prospects, but for an Olympic Games, and if my country's going for a gold medal, I want my team's best assets always able to be utilized, essentially.
For sure, yeah. I think I don't know. I'm sure somebody's come up with this. I think it should just solely be down to the players. Individual players, not even a collective thing, where you need, X amount of players in order for NHLers to go. I think if Russia, for instance, let's say Alex Ovechkin wants to go, which obviously he's voiced that he does, he should be able to go. But let's say Evgeny Malkin doesn't want to go. Then, okay, fine. Evgeny Malkin doesn't go. I don't know how that would work out, and then, various teams would have more NHLers than other teams. Which is already true anyway, because you got teams like Denmark and, Norway playing, and they've only got 1 or 2 guys anyway. So, I mean, that would change up, how teams work and everything like that. If you've only got, 10 NHLers on the American team, and then you've got a bunch of kids or something like that, that would obviously change. But, if the players want to play and, their contract or whatever doesn't restrict them, then, I don't know, let them play.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to do it. Like you were talking about the World Juniors. I mean, they have the World Juniors for a reason, and you can see I don't want to see World Juniors at the Olympics. That's where I want to see the best players in the world, like you said, Nick.
Yeah.
The World Juniors that's their chance to showcase their talent, the upcoming prospects. But I think what it is correct me if I'm wrong, but it's most likely just Bettman just trying to. He doesn't really want to share the wealth. I think what it all comes down to is the revenue that the NHL will be missing out on by players leaving and playing during the Olympics. So, Nick, you can chime in on that. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I mean, but as they've done in every other year, you could just put the couple-week freeze on. You freeze all NHL activity. Guys can rest up. It's kind of like it is an extended vacation for the guys who don't participate. So you freeze roster activity. So going back to the revenue, what it does is it shortens when you have the Olympics, it shortens the off season because you put the regular season to a 2.5 week halt. Allow these players to travel, get acquainted, play their games, and obviously the teams with the NHL, heavy rosters are always there in the end. Finland, Canada, United States, Sweden, et cetera, et cetera. Those are the teams that are going to go far. So you got to give these guys the long break. But off the revenue side of it, it's 1 year the NHL doesn't get an All-Star game because they're not going to do an All-Star game break as well as an 2-week Olympic break. So I think part of it is, the All-Star game gets okay viewership. That also features the best players in the world, and it's an NHL run event. So obviously they're going to reap the benefits from it. But, and then the IOC and the NHL are separate entities. So I can see from a business perspective, what's going to make the National Hockey League more profitable. But at the end of the day, I'm never saying it would ever come to this, but Ovechkin had some pretty strong comments, and you'd never want to see, like a Russian player or a guy who's got enough talent to get paid overseas enough money to go, hey, I want to represent my country. I can get paid handsomely in a different league where they're going to allow me to play in the Olympics. But if I play in the NHL for similar money, I'm going to have to get forced to go for 3 days to whatever All-Star game location. So you never want to see talent. You've got a lot of talented, like, Russian guys in the NHL right now. I mean, you look at the list is endless. You've got Panarin and, Ovechkin and Kucherov, and I could name you a billion guys, and you never want to see any of those guys think about considering playing in the KHL for 1 year during that Olympic year so they can go represent Russia. So that'd be kind of a drastic scenario, but you wouldn't even want to see players considering that, because if you want the best for your league, that's not the best thing from your league if those guys aren't playing in, your North American markets for a year.
Yeah, but I feel like almost the players almost have, they have leverage over the NHL in that, like you said, they can just go.
Certainly.
They can just go to a league overseas and, eventually play for their country during the Olympics.
And I think that's why it'll get done at the end of the day. That's why I think they'll play. But
and like also they don't have to deal with all the ticky-tack BS with like the escrow accounts and how like they're like players are losing large sums of their salaries due to just the whole salary cap situation that the NHL has. So yeah, they definitely have leverage.
We'll give Dan a shot here. What time are we at? What second editing?
19:10. 19 minutes.
Do you want to chime in on it?
No,
I chime in after?
I said my piece, so that's all you. I don't have too much knowledge as far as that goes. So yeah, I'm done. But yeah, 19:20 we're at. 19:10 is pretty much when you.
I think we're on a. This is adding some good time though, so I'm gonna probably. All right, so 3, 2, 1. Yeah, no, that's certainly true. The players do have leverage. I think at the end of the day, when you look at it, if players are losing sums of their salary and the salary cap's kind of stagnated, we heard recently that now it might go up to, I believe, $76 million. So I guess there's some progress there, but at the end of the day, if players are already unhappy enough, is the next thing you want to do piss off, the stars in your league? Because that would, I couldn't even imagine that All-Star weekend if these guys get sent to somewhere, even if it's somewhere warm, you go down there and all they're thinking about is, son of a bitch, I'd rather be in Korea right now, representing, Team USA or Team Canada or something. And, here I'm stuck being a pawn for the NHL doing a skills competition I really don't care about. And I just think at the end of the day, the best thing these can do, like you said, Kevin, is they have leverage. And I think if these players really want to get it done, which it seems like they really want to see the IOC and the NHL come to an agreement, I think what they have to do is just continue to speak up. And if enough people speak out and enough people, can make threats, or which in the case of especially the Russian players, they're really not empty threats at all. I think that could really pressure the NHL into letting this thing happen, because different parts of it's a really good marketing opportunity for the NHL too, I think, to let these guys play, because you look at the United States and across the country, people know about Ovechkin, they know about Crosby, but because Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey plays in Calgary, Alberta, there's some guys and there's some hockey fans in Chicago or the South or wherever, some parts of the Northeast, even, I bet, even though he played college out there, that really don't know who Johnny Hockey is. And if you let Johnny Hockey go play in Korea and he does something special like TJ Oshie did, then he's going to start being a household name. I mean, we all acknowledge that TJ Oshie was a solid player, going in, but he played in St. Louis and he wasn't like a bona fide superstar during his time with the Blues. But because of that one shootout performance he had against Russia on national TV that captivated an entire American audience, he became about as close to what a household name that a hockey player can be, just based off 3 or 4 rounds in the shootout. So I think the NHL is missing out on an opportunity to market some of its best stars to some fans who could potentially get into the sport, who are into the sport but don't know who some star players are. So I think that'd be cool to expose them to like a Gaudreau or a McDavid or something, because they play in a different country, a couple time zones away. This is a good opportunity they'd be missing out on.
Yeah, I think letting the players play is just an overall win for hockey, and consequently a win for the NHL. I think the long-term pros definitely outweigh the cons. Like you said, you get more, all these, players in smaller markets get more exposure on a national scale, which can only help, on both revenue and just popularity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that says it best. What do you guys think? Do you think at the end of the day they're going to let them play?
I think they will.
Yeah,
I do too. It's just hard. I mean, what it boils down to is, I understand there's business involved, but at the end of the day, it's just hard to imagine the NHL players not playing in the Olympics.
Yeah.
As vague and as simple as that sounds, it's just really hard to imagine Olympics that doesn't feature the best players. I mean,
Bettman's greedy, but he's not stupid. Well, at least not business stupid.
yeah.
So, I mean, he's going to try and, sneak and
well, he's been known a few times to not let NHL players play.
Yeah. Well, yeah, true. 3 times to be exact. But, I mean, he's going to try and sneak and scheme his way into getting as much money he can out of it. And hopefully without pissing off, the NHL. It's like you said, it's a business thing. It comes down to money, which
it's just the longer it drags,
yeah,
people will get pissed off.
Exactly, which sucks because, obviously all 3 of us are in agreement. Everybody I know is in agreement. The players are pretty much all in agreement. Everybody wants to see the NHLers play in the Olympics because that's the best of the best put up against the best of the best. So, Bettman, figure it the fuck out, my man.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well, there's plenty of hockey being played overseas in Norway. If you guys haven't seen the stat line, for those of you at home, absolutely unbelievable. So for the sake of the podcast, this happened 2 days ago on Sunday. So a Norwegian playoff game went 8 overtimes. So Storhamar beat Sparta in Norway's top league. So here's some fun stats from that. The game finished with a score of 2-1, but that's not the kicker. The game went 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 14 seconds of playing time. The game-winning goal in the 8th overtime occurred after 2:30 a.m. local time. The winning team, Storhamar, led the shot count by a final tally of 96-93. That allowed them to take a 3-2 lead in the series, and now they have the game 48 hours later. So, initial thoughts on I couldn't even imagine playing in, what is that, basically 3.5 games right there worth of playing time? Like, that's essentially 3.5 games in one, I believe, if my math's correct. So, I mean, what does that do to your legs? I mean, I can't even imagine.
Well, it also sucks that they play 48 hours later. Like,
Yeah.
Geez Louise.
Eventually, I feel like
and everything, but give them a day off or something. Make it like 72 hours. But that's rough. I've had some long games, nothing near that long, obviously. But yeah, your legs. I mean, you try and get some fruit if you're a pro team like that or whatever. A junior team. You're gonna have some Cliff Bars, some bananas. Something to try and keep that energy level at least at a plateau. You're probably not going to gain any energy, but you need to keep it at a level that is competitive. So you don't crash. I know NHL games have gone pretty long. I think there was one in the 80s. There's like a nickname to it, and it was like the Kings and I can't remember who it was, but it was like 6 overtime to eat pizza. Like they literally ordered pizza and ate it in the locker room. So I mean, those guys are eating in the locker room trying to keep their energy levels up. That's just got to grate on your nerves. And even though, what was it, the Sparta team lost, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think the losing team in the NHL game said the same thing. Like, they were heartbroken, absolutely heartbroken that they lost. But at the same time, in the back of their head, they were kind of like, oh, thank God that's finally over. So, yeah, I mean, that's incredible. The eight overtimes, that's absolutely nuts. 11 periods of hockey. And to the fans too, hats off to you. That's ridiculous that you watch that much hockey. That's impressive on their end of things too. So that's nuts.
Yeah, that's serious commitment. I can't imagine the decline in quality that an 8 overtime hockey game would have.
Yeah.
Like right off the top of my head, the triple overtime game in 2013 with the Hawks and the Bruins, you could tell, there was a significant decline in, speed and just overall quality. I can't imagine, 5 overtimes later, what, people are probably just crawling around.
Yeah, and you play tight too. You play tight too because you gotta protect your own zone because obviously it's sudden death. So what I want to know is how good are these goalies? Jesus.
Yeah, seriously, that's
90 saves.
And they only gave up. It was a 2-1 game. It's not like it was an 8-7 game either.
Yeah,
like that's incredibly tight.
So by my
lots
count,
of block shots, all that stuff.
Yeah, by my count, so Storhamar led in shots 96-93 and won 2-1. So that means their netminder made 95 saves in a win, and the opposition made 91 in a loss. It's just remarkable.
That's ridiculous.
Or maybe they just can't. Or they just can't bury a puck. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm screaming at the forwards. If I'm the goalie, I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah. Can you just get me one here?
You buried one in, over 3.5 games worth. Of hockey.
You had 3.5 games to score a damn goal. One more, and you couldn't do that.
I mean, what are you doing with like a defensive pairing? Like from a coaching's perspective in a 8 overtime game, like as absurd as it sounds, when overtime 6 and 7 roll around, are you just abandoning lines in forward lines and defensive pairs at that point? Are you just basically like, who the hell has energy? You two get the hell out there and whatever forwards? Because I feel like, in the NHL, I feel like if that ever happened to like, let's say like the Blackhawks or something, I'm not sure they'd be rolling out Keith Seabrook for their shifts together and Jalmerson Oduya and whatever. I just feel like they'd be abandoning the traditional lines at that point, right? Like there's no way they were rolling the same 2D every time, the same 3 4s. There's just no way, right?
All right. Well, if you're talking about the Hawks, Duncan Keith is still going to be double shifting come overtime period number 8 because the guy's a machine. He's not human. But yeah, I would imagine at a certain point, that's the other thing. How much more can you say in the intermissions? If you're the head coach, what more can you say going into period number 8, overtime period number 8? Like, what more is there to say?
Boys, we better get one here right off the hop.
Honestly. But you said that like
so 10 periods ago.
Yeah, exactly. Coach, you said that 10 periods ago. Jeez. So to me, it's just, what the coach would say or what he'd want is, try and stay on tight defense and just whoever has energy, you go out and play. I don't care who it is, because at that point, it's not going to be, Artemi Panarin's goal last night or yesterday afternoon from Kane, where he buried it from the high slot and, basically he didn't go bar down, but it was pretty damn close. It's going to be one of those fluky, super garbage goals. Throw out your fourth line if you need it. It doesn't matter. I don't know if you guys. It's going to be a bounce.
That's a great point. I don't know if you guys saw the highlight of the final goal, but the guy is skating. You can just tell he's dead. Maybe he's at the end of a shift, something, and he's going down the right wing like he's skating in molasses, and he just lets go a wrister, and the goalie gets beat, far side or whatever. Just. Probably a good shot, but you could just tell it was just the D had no chance of catching up, and the goalies, finally, just cramped up in the crease and just do it. That was finally all he could handle.
That's nuts.
It was one of those, like when you're watching the highlight and you see the guy skating down the wing, and you know it's going in because it's the damn YouTube highlight. But if you were just watching the game, you probably weren't thinking, "Oh, this is going to be it right here."
Yeah, of all the chances,
it's just one of those like.
Of all the chances that were probably in the game, that probably was not the one that you would have thought would have gone in.
I mean, but how many times do you see, not to bring up the Blackhawks again, but you just see these long games. You see the last goal, it's just a total garbage goal, like the one going off the shin pad and, off goal and shin pad and off Shaw or whatever happened. And, the game against Anaheim where the puck goes off Kruger's like hands and all that stuff. It just like hits him and rolls in. It's, it's not going to be in the second or a third or an eighth overtime. It's not going to be anything flashy. It's just going to be who makes the first crucial mistake. And
yeah,
that was Sparta. So there you go. So let's move into the playoff stretch run, I guess. Then, so that's going to be that might be it for our Norwegian top league talk, unless they go another 8 sometime. But absolutely crazy. What a game! Going into the stretch run here, got some news that King Henrik is going to be missing time for New York. He's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks with a lower body injury. But he's going to be back for the playoffs. It seems bad at face value, but really when you look at the standings, if anything, he's going to probably be back for the postseason. And New York's pretty much Rangers are pretty much locked into that number, the top wild card spot. So, teams are battling behind them like the Islanders and Toronto or Boston if Toronto, surpasses them in the Atlantic. But stretch run here, whose time is it to make a move? I mean, the teams almost seem set. It's just there's some seeding on the line. Could Ottawa use these 2 games in hand to pass Montreal right now after their big win against Minnesota, where it was a 4-point swing from going from instead of 5 back to 1. Could they surpass the Wild? You even have Pittsburgh 1 point back of Washington in the Metro with a game in hand. So, we're all on, we all thought Washington was going to, run away with the points total in the league here and win the President's Trophy, but they're not even a lock right now. So there's to win that. So there's a lot of stuff going on. What are your guys' thoughts here moving forward?
Yeah, on the Lundqvist thing too, real fast. Like you said, in terms of points, they're fine. But also when you think of who's going to be in net while Lundqvist is hurt, they'll be fine as well. We've all seen him play because he used to be a Hawkins anti Ranta, and that guy is pretty solid. So yeah, they'll be fine. It's interesting to look at the West though. I think more so than the East because, well, the East is pretty locked up except for that wild card and the last Atlantic Division spot. Like you're saying, Toronto, Boston, the Islanders are in it. But I like looking at the West because, you've got the first place you got both wild cards and then the third place in both divisions. There can be a lot of shifting going on. You got Nashville with 77 points and the Blues with 75. So that wild card spot, or that third place, I should say, in the Central is still very hotly contested. Like you said, first place in the Central is as well between the Hawks and the Wild. And then you've got the Pacific Division. Calgary's in third right now. They're only 2 points behind Anaheim.
Hell of a run, 9 in a row.
Yeah, so they're only 2, and they still have a game in hand on Anaheim. So they're only 2 points back from second. But to add in a little bit more, Edmonton, who's occupying the first wild card spot, is at 79 points. So there's still a heck of a lot of shifting in positions that can go on. Absolutely nothing at this point is locked in the West, except for maybe the Sharks because they're 7 points ahead of Anaheim.
They're going to run away with it.
Yeah,
they're running away with that.
Yeah, they're a game in hand on Anaheim, and they're 7 points ahead. So the Sharks are probably the only team that's actually locked in to their spot because, like I just said, Minnesota, Chicago, Nashville, all that can rotate with, what do the Hawks have left? 12, 14 games left?
Yeah, 14. Minnie's got one. Minnie's got 15. They got 14.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, one team that is worth keeping an eye on is the Oilers.
They've dipped. Crazy.
Yes, at one point.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they were sitting at second in their division.
They were.
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
Yep. And, I don't know what's going on. They're 4-5-1 in their last 10, which is, not the greatest. But, they're definitely worth keeping an eye on going forward because throughout the year they've looked like a surefire playoff team, but something's going on up there. So that should, be
they're still 7 points up on they're still 7 points up on a playoff spot because for dear life to that last spot. Not only have they held on to dear life, they've brought themselves within 2 points of Nashville for third in the Central, and they have a game in hand. So Nashville went on a really nice run where Forsberg was lighting it up and scoring 8 goals in 4 games, 10 and 6, couple hat tricks. Their offense was rolling. St. Louis is still in striking distance of escaping the wild card spot, and but yeah, Edmonton's dipped, but LA, even after their 2 big acquisitions, they're still, on the outside looking in by, I want to say 3 points.
That's 3 points.
I mean, so, LA, we've talked about this, we've beaten this horse to death, but, the front office there with Lombardi, they showed confidence in the core. They want a number 1 goalie in there every night. And, they're not playing bad. They're playing about 500 hockey. They're 5-3-2 their last 10, as I'm looking at it now. But St. Louis is also treading water, playing 500 hockey. And, they just, St. Louis went on that skid, but LA just put themselves in a hole, and they're trying to recover from it. We had mentioned Winnipeg.
They play each other next, too.
Yeah, they do play each other next.
Okay.
So that'll be a very good game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
tonight.
Oh, fuck, it is tonight.
Yep, tonight. And then the Oilers have Dallas. tomorrow. So you would expect the Oilers to win that and sort of, maybe start to right the ship in a way with the win against Dallas, and then continue with the remaining 13 games after that one. So
I still can't believe Dallas is the team that ended the Washington home streak, right? Washington had I want to say a 17-game home win streak, in Dallas.
Yeah, they won like 4-2 or
crazy.
Something like that.
Unbelievable. Every Dallas game is a shit show.
It really is.
We've mentioned gambling briefly on this site, or on this podcast. Sorry, but I mean, seriously, every Dallas game, someone's scoring 4 or 5. It's just nuts. The amount of goals and it goes back to their failed goaltending tandem and the fact that they've got some potency on the offensive end. But yeah, the NHL, the playoff outlook is just crazy. It's just, I think you pretty much know who the teams are going to be. It's one of Toronto, New York, the Islanders, that is, in Boston, is probably going to miss. And then one of probably St. Louis, LA, or Nashville is going to miss. But other than that, it's just kind of a musical chair of seedings, if you will. So we pretty much know who's locked in. But, the Rangers, did well enough in a really tough division like the Metro, where the Henrik Lundqvist injury could be a blessing in disguise, because he's going to get some, you never want to see your number one goaltender get hurt, but, he's going to get some rest for a couple weeks, maybe get back into a rhythm toward the end of the regular season and, games 80 through 82, get himself back on a rhythm, and they're going to be ready to go. And their spot's damn near a lock. I mean, if that's not a lock, there isn't a lock in the standings right now, but them being the top wild card spot. But yeah, good for them.
Absolutely.
Another race worth mentioning that's heating up is the race for the Art Ross, the overall points. Patrick Kane, he was sitting in like 6th or something at the beginning of January, and then he started to tear it up. So did Brad Marchand, and Connor McDavid. He lost what I thought was a pretty hefty lead. So that's something to watch down the stretch.
Absolutely. We can all agree, though, too. We haven't really talked much about individual awards. I'm glad you brought that up, but I mean, Brent Burns has got to be a lock for the Norris, right?
You would think.
Well, the thing is that you'd think Carlson was a lock.
They'll find a way to give it to Carlson.
Yeah. Carlson definitely deserves. I thought he was going to get it last year.
He is improving so much more in his own end, too. He's starting to, the criticism for how he played in his own zone was 100% warranted, and no one denied his skating ability or his offensive production, but he's starting to become a really solid overall defenseman. And, he's a controversial name when you debate defensemen, because people, want to say he's a glorified forward and all that stuff. But I don't think it's really too much of a hot take to say if he doesn't start showing that commitment to improve in his own zone, Ottawa's not looking like a team that could very well win their division. Especially in a year where they face a lot of adversity too, with the Craig Anderson situation. They've had some tough forward injuries, but maybe it's a credit to those not taking advantage around them. You got the rebuilding Leafs, who are well beyond expected, but Montreal and Boston firing their coaches. Those are the teams that are the 3 teams kind of around them in the standings. So maybe they're a product of their environment in a way, but I mean, even still, there's a very good chance they come out with the Atlantic regular season title, which would be that'd be a very shocking feat.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Especially with how hot Montreal started.
Yeah, I mean, Montreal was lighting up teams earlier in the year, and then also got lit up by Columbus. But I mean,
I was just gonna say that game.
That game was wild.
Still a ridiculous game.
Oh yeah, but going back to the divisions, maybe Ottawa's a product of their environment, and so are Boston and Montreal, because what other year in hockey, is there another year in hockey where the top 3 finishers in a division where 2 of them fired their coach?
What the fuck?
And
Yeah, I
and
can't
one
think
of
of
them,
one off the top of my head.
and then one of them loses their starting goalie for a huge stretch. Those are the top 3 teams. That's if Toronto doesn't sneak into that top 3. But as it stands, it's Montreal, Ottawa, and Boston, and Ottawa's had a lot of adversity to face this year, and the teams on the outside of them in that Oreo are teams that have fired their coaches. So it's just kind of a wild year in the Atlantic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Do you guys have any other thoughts on the stretch run or anything you guys had off the top of your head that you wanted to cover this week? Or
Nope, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. I think this week was kind of slow, but I think we covered it all pretty well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, not a whole lot of exciting stuff happened, but there was enough big hits and stuff, I guess, if you will, with the Bennett Trouba thing and the Shattenkirk leaving his feet, and just there's enough stuff to talk about. But hopefully we get some more newsworthy stuff to cover in this next week of games, and looking forward to watching the hockey. Every game, the old cliche, 2 points in March are the same as 2 points in November or whatever. But this is the time where it's obviously make or break, and we're going to see who steps up to the occasion here.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, boys. Thanks for joining me. And and one last note. I had mentioned earlier that I am going to be out of the country, so I will be out on our normal recording time on Monday, and for the podcast drop on our typical day of Tuesday. So we'll send out some information on when we're going to come out with episode 9, and keep all of our loyal listeners in the loop about when that's going to happen. So looking forward to chat with you guys whenever that's next. So thanks for joining me.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, fellas. See you.
See you.
Take it easy.
Do I hit stop broadcast?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what's the time so he knows to cut that too?
We're at 47:40, so
Perfect.
Pretty solid time.
So if I hit stop broadcast, we're still on, right?
What do you mean?
Like if I hit stop broadcast, can we still hear each other and shit?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, I'm hitting it.
It's just not